Okay, and let's see. Okay, we are recording. What's up, guys? It's Talk About It Tuesday. And so today we're going to just kind of chat about the number on this scale. So I think, I don't know, the number on the scale sucks. It always sucks, no matter what. I just don't like the concept of weighing yourself. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. So today we're going to talk about kind of how the number on the scale might be deceiving, or maybe how it defines you. And so I'll kind of give you a backstory on me. So when I was in college, I was an athlete, and every single day, I would weigh myself, because that's kind of what my mom told me to do. I think it was kind of like a fad at the time, like that's how you track your weight loss, which I think can be a good tool. But I think it also, there's just this fine line where it becomes like obsessive, and where it starts to kind of rule over you. And what I mean by that is the number dictated how I felt. So if it went up, I just felt crappier, right? Like I knew I was bloated. I knew what I ate the day before. I knew it probably wasn't going to be a weight loss day, right? And so I'd still step on the scale, and it would just make me feel terrible about myself, and kind of put more pressure and guilt onto the decisions I made the day before. Okay. Well, vice versa, if I got on the scale and the scale went down or stayed the same or something like that, it made me feel really good. And so it just dictated the way I felt and how I lived the rest of the day. So if it went down, I felt like it was a really good day. It made me feel really good about myself and my choices. But if it went up, it was like the whole rest of the day, it was like I was really self-conscious about myself. It just ruined my day. And so for me, it became a really unhealthy habit, just because it literally just dictated my feelings about how I felt about myself. And no number, nothing like that should do that. The only thing that should dictate how you feel is actually how you're feeling. Like, what are you feeling your body with? If it's not making you feel good, then probably change that, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming out with this. And I've listened to lots of podcasts, and I've done a little bit of research kind of prior to this call, just because I didn't want it to be like just my perspective, and I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a different background from it too. And so I also think there's a lot of things that the number on the scale doesn't tell you about your health and fitness journey, right? So maybe so I really like this example, actually. So maybe like this happened to me in college. We were super with our trainer, we would lift heavy, we would lift all the time. It was primarily weights to get stronger. And so you're thinking, okay, like I'm losing fat, I'm burning fat. Why is the number on the scale like staying the same, or why is it increasing the more I lift? And so the simple thing here, like just to break it down easy, is that muscle is more dense than fat. So, and lifting is a high calorie and fat burning activity to do. And so when you're tend to be lifting more and you see the number on the scale rise, it makes sense, because that muscle is more denser than the fat that you have. But it's such a mind game. Like you're thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm gaining weight and I'm working out, like I need to stop lifting. And so that's why there's just this huge misconception with like women lifting, like we're going to get super bulky and we're going to like get really big and muscular. Like we don't have testosterone. Like we can't look like men do. And so that was something in college I never understood. And so I tried to shy away from lifting heavy, because every time I would, the number on the scale, it would either like stay the same or it would increase. And so that's just kind of one of the examples of why the number on the scale isn't always reflecting, one, the work you put in, or two, like actually the progress that you're making. And so kind of what I've started to do to move away from weighing myself, like I still think it's a great tool. I do it maybe like once a week, maybe, I don't know, 3 times a month. Like I don't really have a day where I weigh myself. I don't really anything like that, but I just have a healthier relationship just to kind of check myself. But I actually started to do measurements. So I'll measure like my waist size. You can do your arms too. So just different parts of your body, because another thing the scale doesn't show you is when you're losing inches, right? And also a lot of the time, like you may be noticing changes in your body and you're super stoked about everything that's going on, but you get on the scale and the scale is either the same or doesn't change. You're probably losing inches instead of mass, like muscle mass or like fat burning. And so that's just another like, oh my gosh, the scale is so deceiving. And so we can't really just always like, I don't know, like when I would weigh myself every single day, I was like obsessed with it. I wanted that reassurance that I was doing the right thing. I wanted reassurance that I was eating the right things, and it all was from that number. And that number on the scale doesn't always show you everything behind it. So in some of the things, you guys, it's normal to fluctuate weight between 2 to 5 pounds. So if you hop on the scale and you're like, holy crap, like I just gained 5 pounds in one day, that's normal. Like it's nothing crazy like that. It's not, you're not like gaining body fat. That's your body weight. That's things that you're putting in your body. That's maybe you, I don't know, maybe you didn't drink enough water, or you had too much water and you're bloated. So there's just so many factors. So I'm going to kind of just briefly kind of talk about some of the things that do affect the number on the scale to either increase or stay the same when you're like, what the heck is going on? Like I'm doing all the right things. So hormones, like hormones are huge. They definitely affect the number on the scale. And we've kind of, my coaches and I have kind of talked about this, like it just depends on what type of the month it is. Like it's a weird thing, but it's how our body reacts to hormones. And sometimes we hang on to the bloat, we hang on to extra water weight, and that's normal. That's the human body. And I think it's so easy to get down on ourselves about those things when it's just the process. It's just the process of life, and it's normal. And so again, you're just fluctuating, I don't know, body weight. It's nothing fat related. It's nothing like obesity or anything like that. It's just normal body fluctuation of different factors. So other things that can affect your body weight that is shown on the scale that always freaked me out was like stress. So when we get really stressed out, our brain is like triggered to go into fight or flight response mode. And so if you've ever been in those like high adrenaline situations, or you've been super scared or stressed, your body goes into that fight or flight, and its main concern at that point is to survive. It's a crazy thing. Like when I was a teacher, we did lots of trainings on that because like kids with trauma have that. So anyway, the brain, it has no like middle ground on that. It's either fight or flight, and your brain, your body is going into survival mode. And so when it goes into survival mode, it's not burning calories. It's starting to store like up all those calories into like storing fat. And so that's why if you're super stressed, like you're in school, I don't know, you had a really tough day at work, maybe like the kids, I don't know. But like if you're super stressed, and I didn't know this, and it just makes so much sense now, but that's a factor too that contributes to either like weight gain or kind of like a plateau. So yeah, super interesting how that works. Lack of sleep is a determination of kind of that fluctuation. It's totally normal. Water intake. So this is something too that when I first kind of got into health and fitness, it just didn't make sense to me. But water, the more water you intake, the more weight loss you're going to experience. And so it doesn't make sense, right? Because you're adding more stuff into your body. You would think that like, oh, but I'm going to have water weight. Like I'm going to have so much extra like water floating around, right? It's going to make me heavier. But water is essential because it's going to flush all of the toxins and all of the kind of gunk and the nasties out every single day. So you should be drinking, I think they say half your body weight every single day. And so that's going to help like flush out all the gunk and get the nutrients moving and get your digestive system moving. So some days that maybe you don't drink enough water, right? Then you're either like constipated or you're hanging on to that extra stuff in your gut. And when you really need that water to help your digestive system work and kind of flush out and move around in there. And so that's a factor too, if the scale isn't changing or whatever. Right? Make sure you're drinking enough water. What are some other things here? Okay, so this is a good one too. And you probably heard of it, but when I thought about it, I was like, so let me explain. So salt intake, this is a really big one too. And so when I thought about salt intake, what it does is it's kind of like, it just like grabs on. So if you put like salt in water, you see, I don't know, it just absorbs everything, right? And so that's what it's going to do with water. That's what it's going to do with food. It's just going to like absorb it to sit in your stomach. And so you'll experience like, that's kind of when you get extra bloating. When I have a lot of salt, my like eyes get really poofy and my face gets really poofy. And so it's just hanging on to all that extra water that should be circulating around. And so that's another factor of why the scale isn't decreasing or it's staying the same or whatever, right? These are things that we don't even know that the scale doesn't show, right? The scale doesn't show that, oh, we didn't drink enough water or that we had too much salt that day. So you just have to keep in mind, if you are using the scale, like I think it's a tool that you can use, but like me, like I took it way too far and became obsessive over it. So you just have to keep in mind that the scale isn't going to show these things, and that number isn't going to dictate your journey, and that number doesn't tell you, I mean, it doesn't tell you so much things. So with the salt thing, this is kind of where I was coming from. One thing I didn't really realize, I was kind of thinking like, oh, I don't really have a high salt intake because I don't really put like salt on my mashed potatoes or like salt on extra things. Like I just don't really do that. But like anything that's processed, so anything that's in like boxes or cans typically has high amount of salt because it's used to retain shelf life. So that's what they used to do, like back in the day with meat, they would cover it in salt because it helps preserve it. And so all of like the box foods that we get and all of the cans and stuff, they have that salt in there to help it preserve it. So that's like a thing that I never factored in with my salt intake, because I just thought, oh, I'm not adding salt to anything, but it's like, it's really in a lot of things. So those are just things to look out for. But again, like I think the scale can be a helpful tool, but it should not dictate your worth, right? That number on the scale doesn't mean that you're not doing awesome on your fitness journey. It doesn't mean that you aren't making progress. Like it doesn't show those small wins that we should be celebrating every step of the way, the inches that we lose, the way that we feel. And so kind of the mind shift that I did from moving from having that number on the scale every single day dictate whether I had a good day or a bad day or whether I felt good in my skin or not, is to actually focus on how you feel, right? Instead of having that number tell you how you feel, actually be like, okay, how do I feel today? Right? And most of the times where I'm like, oh, I feel like crap today, it's because I ate crap food the night before. And so I just really started focusing on, okay, how do I feel? Okay, is this, whatever I'm about to eat, is this going to make me feel good or is it going to make me feel blah? And so that's where a lot of my weight loss journey has come from. That's where I've just started to see a lot more progress from, is from, instead of monitoring my weight, monitoring how my body feels and monitoring what I put in my body. And so when you start to focus on how you feel, I think your perception of yourself completely changes too, because you're not so worried about, oh my gosh, like I gained 2 pounds. The scale told me I gained 2 pounds. I'm really self-conscious. It's like straighten my legs, right? We make up the stupidest things. But instead you're like, oh, I feel good today. When you feel good, you look good, right? Have you ever heard that saying? So it's just all about changing your mindset and focusing on how you feel. And if you're not feeling good, then that's just your focus, to change it. Change the way you feel, change the way, or the things that you're putting in your body. And for me, that's been like a huge shift overall. So that's kind of all I wanted to talk about today, just because I feel like so many people get wrapped up around that number on the scale. And so if you guys have anything else to say, go ahead and like unmute yourselves. If you don't, it's good. But if you do, that's awesome. I think Alex is coming. Do you think? I think she's coming to say something.
Could not get it to work. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I used to have the most unhealthy relationship with a scale. Like, I mean, it was really, really bad. Like, I was literally addicted to my scale. Like, I used it multiple times a day. It was awful. Like you said, if you went up, you went down, you had your up and downs with it. You know, it really kind of controlled me for a while. My husband threw away my scale. Like full on, he threw it in the garbage when I wasn't paying attention. He said that I was not allowed to step on a scale anymore. Like I went months without stepping on a scale. Yeah, I'm talking about you. because I did not have one. And the only time I ever got to do one was the doctor's office. But it really helped me because then I paid attention to my measurements and everything else. And like I was losing weight and I lost enough weight, but I wasn't watching it so much anymore. So I think it's really good to not focus so much on that number because it's not that important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've had the same, like, where that number just like dictated like my day and how I felt. And it's like, that shouldn't be it at all. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing like a number should like determine the type of person you are or how you feel about yourself. And so that's where I had to like realize that that number was like tearing me down more than it should be building me up.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I love it. So cool, Alex. I love it. Shay, do you have anything? Okay. All right. Anything else, Alex? Okay. All right. So I'm going to end your recording here.